Hello and welcome, guys, to the Blockchain Boys podcast. We are your hosts, Mujtaba Mirza and Ali Solanki, and welcome to the first ever podcast. Why don't we go ahead and start by introducing ourselves? So, Ali, you can go first.
Hi guys, this is Ali Salanki, a blockchain come YouTuber, and yeah, I've been developing crypto applications. I've been a developer in the crypto space for a long time now. It has been 1 year since I've been in this space, and I've been creating content on YouTube as well, teaching people about crypto, about blockchain, and sharing my knowledge about it. Um, the way I actually got into blockchain is actually quite interesting. I talked to Mirza itself. If you remember, we had a great conversation about NFTs and the creator space as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
Mirza was the one who actually told me a lot about the crypto world, and that's where my curiosity sparked. So yeah, that's essentially a small brief introduction about me. How about you? Go
that's
ahead and
you.
tell the viewers about yourself.
So, basically, how I got into blockchain is I'm basically on the NFT sides of the blockchain, like the art world and how art and blockchain move on together. That's where my interest sparked. So, to give a small background to you guys, I'm 20 years old from Kashmir, and I am currently pursuing a career in product designing. So, I'm studying in product designing. It's my third year right now, and I had a passion for bodybuilding and fitness, right? And I also had a passion for graphics design. So, normally, when you approach product designing, you tend to lose that graphic skill, which is very important in stuff like marketing your product and stuff like that. So I wanted to keep that alive, and I said that if graphics is my passion, I can do something in this field, bodybuilding and fitness. So that's how I started to explore art in bodybuilding and fitness. And then when the blockchain came across, because I was so active in the art space, I basically followed influential artists in the space who had similar kind of work but in a different niche. And when I saw them jumping into the NFT space late 2019, early 2020, I was like, okay, this seems interesting. Let me give my shot to it because I was so passionate about bodybuilding. I thought this might be just something additional to my portfolio, and something that I can help the community with in my way. So that's how I started to get into blockchain, learning about NFTs and then learning about cryptos. And I still remember the first conversation we had. It was like a give and take for both of us. It was like I wanted to know more about cryptocurrencies and the blockchain and how I could use them as monetary value for exchanging my NFTs. And then when I
Yeah,
spoke to you about NFTs, it was NFTs was something new to you. So basically, that was a give and take first
yeah,
podcast. So,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
so that's how I
So
got
I
that's how I got into NFTs and the blockchain, and that's where I'm right now.
Yeah, I think when got into the development space itself, like not just blockchain, but say mobile app development, web development, or anything like that, I had not heard about blockchain a lot. Like I knew that there was a field that existed, something known as blockchain, but I did not know what it was, and there were not a lot of resources, backing it up, where I could learn it from. And I wish I would have started earlier, but nevertheless, I started with first website development, then I went into mobile app development, and then after talking to you, after talking to a bunch of people, getting to know about blockchain, I started venturing into this field as well. But I still feel that there are not a lot of resources yet out there for blockchain development. Even I sometimes feel that it's quite difficult to learn new things and be updated with these things. I think community is one of the things that helped me a lot. So that's where I started knowing a lot about these things. Then I started posting content on YouTube as well. So when I was learning about these things, I was posting it on my YouTube channel as well. I was teaching other people, and that's where other developers started to approach me, and we started to know what are the things that we are missing and learning by actually doing those things. So yeah, I
So
think
yeah, I think
that's
you pretty much hit like 10 points in the same answer in the same topic right now. So one of the things I want to tell everyone is Ali is already an a quite an established influencer in the space, and he already started his journey. He's one of the prime examples of how you approach marketing yourself in this expansively growing world, at what pace it's growing. So Ali was already into YouTube and sort of marketing himself and giving his knowledge on tech and whatever, lifestyle stuff and everything of that sort. And then once he got into blockchain, that started to sort of narrow down his vision for what his YouTube channel was, and sort of keep that in one of the main topics of his YouTube channel. So he's very influential in that
yeah.
way. So if you guys want to follow him for his content that he keeps on posting on the blockchain, you can go follow him. His YouTube channel is linked in the description below. And one
Thank
of
you
the
so
things
much.
I understood about the
But
community,
but
yeah,
but I feel the part about community building. So even though when I was running my YouTube channel, I knew things about marketing. I knew things about how to get your videos, higher up in the search results and all of those things. But the thing about community building and how to actually form loyal audiences who will actually keep coming back for each of your videos whenever you upload, they are right there at the live chat session and everything. I think that's something that I learned from you. You started to talk about building your own communities and how communities are really important in the blockchain crypto space. So I think I learned that from you. So yeah,
absolutely.
I
I think the I was coming to that point. That's the community building aspect. So especially in this sort of like saturated world of whatever jobs and career paths we have at our age. So we are both around 2021. Some things there are some things that everybody has to do in order to make themselves unique. After a point, there are a few things that the crowd does not do in general, and that might set you apart. One of those things is YouTube, and Ali is a prime example of how YouTube can also be a career changing, uh, you
yeah
know, endeavor in many aspects. In the sense that you start it, you are dedicated to it, you build a community around your content. Even if it's not that good, at least you build a community around it. So you're in the talks, you're in the limelight. So that's one of the ways, quote unquote, adding things to your CV, which is very influential and very key in today's day and age. That's social media, marketing yourself, building a community around yourself. So you
yeah
always have a space to fall back to. You always know that there are people out there who are watching you and watching your work, and that's how you kind of keep yourself also in check, and start to grow with the trends, and that's how you keep up
Mhm.
with the trends too, for example crypto. So
yeah
let's come to the point as to why this podcast. Why do we
yeah
think that this podcast is important? Who are we
Mhm.
to make this podcast, and who is our audience? So let's hear your perspective on that first, and then I can give my perspective
Sure.
on.
So, for me, this podcast really stands for teaching the beginners about what blockchain really is, what cryptocurrencies really are, and giving them a real world insight. So, not just from say you find your content on YouTube or something, you'll find content based on animations. They will actually teach you about blockchain and all the things, but what we want to give is experience. We want to learn with you, and we want to give you the experience of the entire journey. So I think that's what this podcast really is for me. Plus, through this podcast I'll be learning a lot. So that's really going to be key for me in this podcast.
Yeah, so I think my version of that would be something on the same lines. First of all, we have to clear this up that this podcast is First of all, no way financial advice. This is basically in a growing state of opportunities and technology around us, especially for people like us who have already, like in our 20s 21s, we already have had that point of deciding and narrowing down what we have to do in our careers, in our lives at this point for the coming 10 years till our 30s. And all of a sudden this blockchain technology comes in, and everybody, especially the pandemic, makes people think about investing and stocks, and crypto comes along. So this comes off like as a new opportunity to all of us in a place where we have already sort of decided what we want to do. And it's one of those anomalies, in our lives, that some opportunities come around and you never know what you will end up doing. So one of the things that
Yeah.
has happened to people in at our age is that there is so much content outside, but yet
Mm.
some kind of content is not the right kind of content. Most of that kind of content uh, is not the right kind of content to begin with. So people like
Mhm.
Ali and me, we have like sort of done the trial and error method of approaching the topic of crypto, blockchain, NFTs, vis-a-vis trying to complete our whatever courses, and this is especially for those people who are new to this and who want to learn the way to approach it. There are
Yeah.
a billion different ways to take in all the information that is available. But for example, if you are an artist and want to go into the NFT space, I can give you good insight on that, and Ali can give you good insight if you want to become a blockchain developer, if you want to go more into the back end tech and stuff like that. So collectively also we have some experiences we can share about projects and how we approach this over the last 1.5 years. That is, these 2 years basically being the like the first starting beginning stone age of crypto, and the blockchain. So this is for those people who need like a more broken down, simpler approach in how they can and how they can approach this information, this big intimidating thing that it is, which in reality is actually can be broken down into many simpler parts and can be understood
Mm.
easily. Which is one of the things is that people feel that they are already left behind. That's something that me and Ali
Yeah.
felt when we started 2020, late 2020. And that's some people who started in the crypto biz in 2007s 2010s, they felt they were already late then. So the point is, you can't feel that you're late unless and until you give your time, you give your due diligence, and try to approach this topic in the proper way. So this is for those people. This is not for intermediaries, or this is not for experts in the crypto field. This is just basically trying to break this big crypto, blockchain, metaverse, DeFi space into a bro chat like we are
Mhm.
having, me and Ali. So
Yeah.
people can just learn from this like it's a tea time talk, and then they can approach whatever fields they want to approach in whatever space in crypto, DeFi, blockchain, etc. So yeah, that's what I feel this podcast is about, and that's whom podcast is going to help a lot. Yeah. Yeah. So
I
yeah,
think, yeah,
you have anything else?
you've summarized it quite well. I think you've touched upon all the points that I was missing. So yeah, I think, yeah, I think so.
Awesome. So the next thing we are going to talk about is how do we define a few following key phrases, which is a lot used in the
Mm.
crypto space, NFT space, and how do we define them in our own way? So you guys can get an insight into how two different people from the same space who are trying to learn the same space define the following things, in their mind, breaking it down to the simplest kind of explanation we have. So the first word is blockchain. It's simple. Can you define blockchain in your point of view, and then I'll define blockchain in my point of view. So
So I won't just define it, like I won't just give you one sentence and then be done with it, but rather I'll try to break it down in simplest terms. So blockchain basically is block and chain, right? So there are different blocks, and those blocks are then connected to one another. So what are these blocks? How do they work? And are they really like boxes of blocks, or what is it? So the first thing is it's not something like that. It's completely a consensus mechanism. It's a protocol. So how we approach saving our data, it's basically that. So it's a new form of saving your data without having anyone to have one central control over it. It's basically decentralized. That's why the term decentralization is, you hear it a lot, because that blockchain, the entire data of the blockchain is sometimes, so it depends on the consensus mechanism, of course, but it is stored on every node. Now, what does node mean? Node is generally the people who are using the blockchain. Say, for example, if you've used torrents, right? I give this example a lot. So if you've used torrents, you see that those torrent files, when you download it, you are also uploading those files as you download it. So where are you uploading it essentially? So those files get uploaded to the next person who tries to download it. So you essentially become a server in itself. So say for example, if you want to host a website, if you want to if you have Google Photos, or if you're storing photos on the cloud, where do your photos get stored? They get stored on Google servers, or they get stored on Apple servers. What happens if Apple one day decides to delete all your photos, or if Google decides to delete your photos? You can't basically retrieve it back. They have the control over your data, they have the control over all of these things, but not in blockchain. So if you store your data through the blockchain process, if you keep your data through that, then it's basically, you cannot delete it unless and until you delete it from everyone's node, like everyone's computer and stuff. So that's
Yeah.
how I define blockchain. I define it as a way to decentralize your data.
That's a really nice explanation based on especially technologies that are coming forward using the same kind of using the people to build the connectivity, using the people and their tech and their time and their money to build something for the people. So that's something that decentralization stands for, and we can go into decentralization after this one. But coming to my point of view of blockchain, it's very similar to what you said in a way, but let's break it down into, for example, a 2-year-old kid, okay, a 3-year-old kid who likes to hear bedtime stories, right? And we talk to him about stars, or we talk to him or her about stars and the galaxy. So the basic definition I try to give a kid, which is the next people who are going to face the web 4 wave, and trying to get into that faster, because the generations are getting into new technology faster than the previous generation. So this is how I like to explain blockchain. So we know we have a solar system, we have a universe, right? We have different
Yeah.
galaxies. So this is not
Mm.
based on the working of the blockchain and what it is technically, and this is in an artistic way that I try to explain it to them, is that via storytelling you have different universe, you have different galaxies in the universe. So there is this
Mm.
big universe that is our crypto space, and then there are different galaxies in the universe, and you can call each galaxy a blockchain in itself. And these galaxies have their own planets, several billion planets, stars, whatever, and these account for your cryptocurrencies on that blockchain, right? Your currencies or NFTs or whatever information is available on that blockchain. Now imagine
Mm.
all these stars and planets are pieces of code, right? So
Mm.
these pieces of code lie within this galaxy, which is the native blockchain of those pieces of code. So so that's how I like to define. So similarly, there can be several blockchains and a trillion billion blockchains that are yet to come and may come in the future. And the essence of it is an ecosystem where these pieces of code that have information, like Ali rightly said, that is uploaded, downloaded, spread across the blockchain. And then we have things like, if I want to travel from one galaxy to another galaxy, and we can
Yeah.
get into that. So this is basically an artistic visual explanation for you guys of what blockchain visually you can think of, and that's how I like to define blockchain in a very like non-technical and story manner. So
I
that's
think I've not heard such an analogy before, so this was first for me. Uh, Comparing it with galaxies, I mean,
yeah. I
it's
mean
next
this.
level.
I mean this is how I felt like. I tried explaining this to my younger sister. So she is 10 years old. I tried explaining this to her, and she she actually didn't get the tech part of it. But when I explained it to her, so people, I feel like people are visual thinkers, so people try to
Yeah,
break it down into the simplest visuals in their mind, right? So
yeah.
that's how I felt that she got it better and she started understanding it better. And so I'm trying to get my sister also in the crypto space, NFT space. So
Yeah,
that's a good way to channel her time and energy into NFTs. So
yeah.
yeah, so that was the first word, blockchain. And Ali, maybe you can go start with the second thing that we have to define in our own ways here.
Cryptocurrencies and NFTs, right?
Yep.
So for me, again, I'll go with the technical approach here. So for me, cryptocurrencies is pieces of code which are written on these blockchains. Okay, and say for example, you upload your code, and people start believing in that code. They see the vision for the code, and they say that okay, this code is worth something. Okay, so they start investing in that code, and that's how the currency is formed. Now that cryptocurrency has its own parameters, like you can transfer the cryptocurrencies, you can transfer the code. You're essentially just transferring code from one wallet to another. So yeah, that's what cryptocurrencies are. You're just transferring codes. It's just sitting in your wallet. You can even compare it with the bank balance that you have currently. So if you see your bank balance, it's just digits seen on your mobile app or whatever it is. You don't actually have that cash in your hand. And even if you have cash, it's just a paper with a sign written that it's worth 10 rupees or it's worth 20 bucks or something like that. So how do you know that it's worth something? It's only because the other person is willing to give you goods and services worth
Yeah.
that 10 rupees or worth that 20 rupees. So it's
Right.
the same thing over here. Other person is willing to give you the goods and services worth that cryptocurrency. That cryptocurrency is just a piece of code. So that's how I like to think about it. Even for NFTs, it's for me it's the same. It's a smart contract which is written in a different way. And for me, why NFTs are different than cryptocurrencies is because NFTs also have a parameter wherein you can put in your own images, you can put in your own GIF files, you can put in anything that you like, anything that you see in the real world, you can just convert it to an NFT, which is really beautiful. And I think it can be monetized, it has a lot of future. Basically, you can form communities with it. I've seen such beautiful communities being formed through NFTs. So yeah, I think that's how I would like to define cryptocurrencies and NFTs.
So that's a really nice insight because there is a mix in your explanation. It's sort of tech is there, and then there is
Yeah,
also a kind of, because of the NFT part of it and because of the creative abilities of cryptocurrency, you can't actually give a totally techie definition for cryptocurrencies, right? So that's the beauty of crypto. So how I like
yeah,
to define cryptocurrencies and NFTs are, so the last example I gave of the galaxies and pieces of code available on it. So basically, the key point I took away from your definition was the smart contract, right? The smart contract is basically the heart and the soul of NFTs and cryptocurrencies. So this is a contract that is a piece of code. It exists digitally, right, on whatever blockchain. And with this piece of code, people can attach digital goods to it. People can attach a real contract to it, and because it exists basically on the blockchain, about how you talked about how things exist on the blockchain and everybody has a copy and stuff like that, it's open to everybody. Like the
yeah,
information about that piece of code and contract is open to everybody once it's deployed on the blockchain. So
yeah,
this piece of code can be assigned a monetary value, right? Can be assigned a digital good with it, can be
Yeah.
assigned the contract to a physical real world asset with it. And that is the beauty
Mm.
of the smart contract. So it started with NFT, it started with crypto, because crypto is just basically a piece of code with only monetary value attached to it, right? So that's Bitcoin for you. Like, a majority of what Bitcoin is actually just monetary value with a piece of code. And the reason
Yeah.
it gets value is, one, because of the community and what people think, and two, because of its scarcity. So
Yeah.
because you know that only a certain number of cryptocurrencies of a certain cryptocurrency will be mined or made ever. So that's what the scarcity gives it more value, and the more people come in and believe in the project, as Ali
Mm.
stated, that's how the value of the cryptocurrency grows. And that cryptocurrency, which is native to its own blockchain, in which NFTs are also present, these artworks or digital goods attached with a smart contract, also get value because they are associated with the with some kind of monetary value too, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I like to define NFTs and cryptocurrencies. So that's a
And
more artistic approach of defining it, and you
yeah.
have a really nice approach in defining it too. So uh, the next point we are going to discuss is, by far, I think, the most widely spread word used in modern day economy in terms of approaching crypto, especially if you live in countries like India. This word is all over the papers, front page, back page, everywhere, because that's something that directly affects economy first, and then also
Mm.
affects every other digital asset or piece of code available on the blockchain. This word is
Yeah.
decentralization. So,
Yeah.
Ali, why don't you give us your version of decentralization?
So I would like to compare it with our real world thing, which is political system. So back then we used to have
Easy
like,
there, easy, easy. Okay,
no,
guys, we need to open our ears for this one. Okay,
no, no,
okay,
no.
you're good to go.
But then it's like back in say hundreds of years back, we used to have like monarchs and one king or one king's family or someone who used to rule the entire kingdom, and that's how the entire system worked. After that, people actually got this idea of giving the people the power of choosing their own representative. And that's what I think decentralization is really all about. It's about taking away the powers from these central authorities like governments, having financial control. If we are going into cryptocurrencies, then having financial control over, say, printing money. They can print as much money as they want, and because of that, we can see a lot of things happen like inflation, hyperinflation, and stuff. So because of that, people have realized, especially after the 2008 crash, people have realized that we need to give this power of handling the finances back to the people, because it is essentially people who are believing in that currency. If people stop
Right.
believing in cash, if people stop believing in dollar, its value just decreases. No one is willing to take dollars and give you goods and services, then its value just becomes zero. So
Exactly.
that's what I think about decentralization and how it's different from centralization. It's just taking power from a central authority and giving it back to the general public.
So I was here talking about how artistic explanations are different, and the democratic and monarchic sort of explanation that you gave. That's truly artistic, and
Yeah.
that's a nice story. I think you should get into NFTs now, enough of blockchain. So I'll give you my definition of decentralization, which is like this. This is by far the example I give to every single person who asks me about what decentralization means truly. So now we
Mm.
have a vague idea of what cryptocurrencies are, what NFTs are. These are pieces of code. They have monetary value, digital value, right? What decentralization actually means is, rightly in your words, is taking authority over from a single power, right? Who has the say in the value of your currency, value of this piece of code, right? Which in real world does not exist. So the value of paper, that's money, stuff like that. So how I like to define it is, let me give you a story, a small scenario, right? So let's say I go to a shopkeeper to get a packet of biscuits, right? Let's say I have 1 Bitcoin. That's a hell lot of biscuits, but let's say I have 1 Bitcoin, okay, just for namesake. So,
Yeah.
and I have my debit card, my credit card, right? So now, if I pay through
Yeah.
my debit card, my credit card, basically I'm paying through the money that the RBI has issued or a central government has issued to me, and that's how I'm going to pay for that good, right? So that's centralized.
Yeah.
That money, that value that I'm exchanging for the good is a centralized, you know, that's money. So that's under the government. And if I pay for it in Bitcoin, that's decentralized. So let me give you a
Yeah.
scenario. I go, I give the debit card to the shopkeeper. I tell him, give me this packet for 1 rupee, this biscuit packet. So what he actually does is he takes that debit card, he swipes it in his machine. He's basically asking the bank that is this man good for his money, that I can give him this biscuit packet. And then the bank sees my monetary value of whatever money I have based on the central government and whatever I have earned. Then they accept that I have that money, and it's because of they accepting that I have the money, the shopkeeper gets a green light, and then I get the biscuit packet, right? And that goes through systems, additional systems, like maybe I have the money and my account is banned for some reason, which is only banned because of a central government banning me for some reason. So these can be
Yeah.
auxiliary scenarios, but basically shopkeeper is asking the government if I am allowed to get the biscuit packet. Now when I
Yeah.
take a Bitcoin, okay, I tell the shopkeeper, here's 1 Bitcoin, give me 1 biscuit packet. So
Yeah.
what he actually does is he goes and asks every single Bitcoin holder in this world
Yeah.
that is this man good for his Bitcoin? Is this man good for the monetary value of the code he has, right? And then everybody agrees that I am eligible to get that packet of biscuit. So it's not under
Yeah.
one person or one authority, it's under every stakeholder, no matter which country you're from, which government you fall under. So I'm basically asking everybody. And because everybody is staked in that currency in which I am staked in, cryptocurrency, it's something that everybody knows that in the future when they have to buy a product, I will be one of the people to, allow them to get the product, right? So that's basically how the shopkeeper then gets the go ahead, and then I get my product in real world
Yeah.
with the contract available, with the agreement available from every single Bitcoin holder that I deserve the biscuit, right? So that's sort of like a story kind of definition I like to give of decentralization.
In
So
this, I would like to add. So, one more thing that people ask is why is decentralization, or why is this way or this approach better than central authority? And I usually point it out to the fact that, say, for example, in your approach itself, if the shopkeeper asks each and every Bitcoin holder, does this person have the valid bitcoins in order to buy the goods and services, or the biscuit? So until and unless more than 50% of the people say that he does not, it won't go through, right?
exactly.
It will actually work and he will get the biscuit back. But in the case of central authority like a bank, it's just the bank, it's just the
Yeah.
government that has to say that no, he does not. So that's one thing that I wanted to add.
Yeah, that's really nice. So this is a kind of give and take for both of us too. So I'm learning new things from him. So technical things like 50% and stuff like that is really important for artists like us to understand when we get into a space which we don't typically have technical knowledge about. So this is a few ways in how we like exchange info and like build each other's database on this big thing called cryptocurrency and DeFi. So
Yeah.
that was the three definitions that we have of basically these three largely used words. in our own points of view.
Yeah.
And awesome, that brings us to the last segment of this first podcast. So this segment we are going to continue as a ritual in every podcast. This is called
Yes.
the what if segment. So
Mm.
so this is where we discuss possibilities of, like, just in our imagination of what it would be like if there was a crypto project or an NFT project based on XYZ, and just talk about it for the sake of just showing you how vastly you get creative control in this space in addition to monetary control and freedom. So this is that segment. So today's topic, Ali, why don't you go through today's topic
Answer
for
it?
us?
Of course, of course. So today's topic is, what if your passport was an NFT? So go ahead with it.
Yeah, so the topic is crazy. So, as we sort of briefly explained what NFTs are, so I have really not come across any project as of today that actually is in a way centralized but decentralized. You know, so because of so many governments having problems with cryptos and how cryptos function, and they losing
Yeah.
their autonomy over crypto, I feel that there is a big market if governments actually go hand in hand with crypto, because
Yeah.
the centralized and decentralized space are something that have a lot in store for each other if they work together, and at the same time
Mm.
if they are not working together, there is a lot that is left unexplored, right, with each one of them. So if we take the NFT aspect of decentralization, and we take the centralized aspect of having real world travel and stuff like that, and permissions to live in countries, get into countries, have experiences in countries, um, I feel that if your NFT is a passport, one of the first things that is going to have effect on is your credentials and your, like, identity in the
Yeah.
space, because what decentralization does, it keeps it keeps your identity, personal identity, safe, while it opens up your
Yeah.
transactions to the world, right, based on what wallet you have, right, based on what address you have. So you can have 10 different addresses and, like, uh, you know be anonymous, but in the
Yeah.
centralized world it's the opposite. So your transactions and whatever you personally do, that's more protected, and but your identity is out there, right,
No matter how many cards you have, they all link to one
to
person.
one person.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I feel that when your passport is your NFT, you can, first of all, in the contract of your passport, it will be forever living on the blockchain, in the sense that all your experiences, travel, memories, the reasons why you went, everything, those experiences can be accounted for by the governments, and they can sort of be added to your NFT. So they are sort of
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
added to your experience, your travel experience. So whenever somebody
Mm.
comes and has a look at your NFT portfolio, they look at your NFT passport, right? So you say you have this experience. Let's say I'm a traveler, right? This is detrimental for
Mm.
me, and sorry, very important for me, because as a traveler, I have to show people that I have physically gone to these places and these are my experiences. This is one way to document your journeys on paper, but
Yeah.
not on paper. So that's where the centralized and decentralized part comes in. So this is one of those
Yeah. I think.
topics I feel that both these spaces can work together on, and it has a lot of boon for
Yeah.
even the common man, for us. Um, yeah.
I think passport as an NFT. So I have a different approach for this. So what I think is, if that is ever created, what it would do is it would create borderless countries. So say for example, you want to travel to say Europe, or any other country like Germany or something in Europe, then you don't necessarily have to go through the entire process of filing for a visa, maybe go through other things as well, that their government actually requires. Instead, they can have a global thing wherein they will account for the credibility of the person to travel to these many countries. and that credibility gets affected by the things that you do. Say for example, you travel to that country, you do something bad, okay, so your credibility goes down. If you don't do something bad, if you're doing something good for that country, your credibility goes up, and it's all there on the blockchain. Plus, if you want to change the credibility also, you need to make sure that most of the people who are using that blockchain agree to it, so that there is no actual central control over it. It's like that person is out there in the public, and his actions are accountable by everyone. It's not just one person, it's not just the government,
Correct.
but everyone who's using the blockchain. So I think
Absolutely.
that's where it would change the things. And
That's a very
yeah.
nice point that you actually basically, if your passport is an NFT, you become the citizen of the world, right?
Yeah.
You are not the citizen
Yeah.
of India, or you're not a citizen of Pakistan, you're a citizen of the world, right? So that's what makes you that's what basically you're democratizing the whole world under one. So I think a good group of people that could make this happen, for the betterment of the world, seeing that the world is going to
Yeah.
end in like 50, 60 years because of global warming and stuff. We have to stop wars and stuff like that. This could be a big project for, let's say, the United Nations. So they could start issuing passports that are NFTs,
Mhm.
and this would
Yeah. Yeah.
decentralize, individual citizens from whatever countries they
Mhm.
belong to. If they choose to belong to that country, they can still belong to the country, but at the same time, their greater responsibility is towards the ecosystem, the whole world, right? Or in other words, all the people that hold NFT passports, right? So they can be from
Yeah.
anywhere in the world. So this is
Yeah.
one thing I feel that can have a lot of moral value too in the kind of world we live in today, and definitely a lot of personal portfolio growth for people who are into stuff like traveling and travel experience. It can be, a
Mm.
boon for the airline industry, for transport industries, and even for
Yeah.
travel experience in the agencies and industries that are native to any country. They could sort of use this
Mhm.
and collaborate with it on their personal travel packages or whatever. And that's
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
I feel is very, can be thought about a lot. Might not happen, might happen, but if it happens, something really unique. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so that's the what if segment. You have anything else to say?
I think you've covered everything there is to cover. And plus, see, what if your passport was an NFT? This whole section about what if is in itself is a platform where you share your ideas of what if this thing happens. So I think that was a great point of taking out, passport as an NFT. There are a lot of things to talk about this topic.
We our imaginations cannot fathom what's possible if
Yeah.
this goes through, but this is just to show you guys how much this space actually gives you potential for your creativity, at the same time technological knowledge. So
Yeah.
there are two things that you need to know, especially at this stage of what our space is in, and in terms of approaching the space, if you are interested into it, both the tech aspect of it and the NFT aspect of it. That's art and video, 3D, or restaurant business, and anything that is attached to providing a digital good with a physical real life value, uh, and not
Mhm.
just monetary value. I feel like the first thing is that we need to know that there might be a lot of people already in it, but for us to realize why what our place is in the space, we need to take our time. The space is not going to go anywhere, right? It's going to be here.
Mhm.
And what people
Yeah.
really look for is projects that have potential, right? Projects that have a vision. So I would
Yeah.
say, I would argue, if you are batting an eye here and there, just beating around the bush in the space, trying to just hog in every single piece of information you have, that's not the right way to go about it. That's
Yeah.
the that's, I think, the wrong way to go about it, because that way you will intimidate
Yeah.
yourself and you won't reach uh, any particular place of position of having
Mhm.
some kind of experience in your hand in the space. So I suggest that people take their time, see what they have to
Mhm.
provide, and what skills they can work on. And once that is done, they give their due diligence, whatever, 50 days of research, um, and then they come up with a project, or they start approaching a smaller niche inside this big space, and start establishing
Mhm.
themselves that way. So that's one. And the second is community building, obviously building your community around what you have to offer. And Ali, maybe you can say something else about community building, seeing you have a good YouTube channel and you have a better way of approaching this topic. So I think you are the more qualified person to give a definition on.
So I think in community building, especially when things are getting decentralized, so you have all of these. Now, I don't want to get too deep into it. I don't want to talk about DAOs right now, but if you know about DAOs, so those are like organizations which are decentralized. And the major problem that I saw over there, and even in the communities that I was trying to set up, is that there were a lot of spams. So that is there because there's no central authority who can actually ban them or remove those comments or something like that. But people are really innovative. So what they've started to do is they've started to delegate like admins for the groups, and have tokens set up so that more the holders of those tokens, like more the tokens with the holders, the more authority they get over managing these things. So I think the crypto space is yet to be explored by communities, and there is a lot to learn and a lot to explore in the field of communities for the crypto world.
So awesome. So that was the first podcast. I hope you guys like the podcast, and you guys should drop below your questions for the next podcast so we can have a question and answer segment.
Of
So
course.
yeah, so we are your hosts for this podcast. It's the Blockchain Boys podcast. Mustafa Mirza here and Ali Solanki signing out. Take care and have
Bye
a
bye.
nice day.